Okay guys, welcome back to the channel. So in today's video, I'm going to be speaking about a very common problem that a lot of BMW owners are probably facing right now, have faced in the past, or will face in the future. And this is one problem that people really do fail to diagnose and properly. And that's purely because a lot of people seem to think they've got to replace this, replace that, this, that, and can't get their head around what this simple problem is. And that's purely because on other cars, you don't have this part and also this problem on other brand of cars. It's only on BMW they actually fitted this. And I'm going to be explaining to you what is the most overlooked problem on these BMWs and what it will cause, and what is probably got a lot of you guys who have got your cars just sitting, waiting to be repaired thanks to this problem, because people don't know about it or overlook it. So let's get onto this video, and I'm going to be talking to you why all you BMW owners need to check this immediately. Okay guys, so as many of you guys know, this is my BMW 6 Series, but this will apply for your E90s, E81, E82, E83s, E70s, E60s. Doesn't matter what one you've got, this will apply to them all, even the F Series. So you go to get in your BMW. You put the key in, you then hold the brake, try to start the car, and you hear no crank, no start, which is very common. You'll see here, we'll press it, everything will come on, and you'll just get no crank, no start. As you're pressing and you're pressing, you're holding down on the brake, which is what you're meant to do, hold the brake pedal to start the car, and you're not hearing it even click, you're not hearing the starter motor turning, no nothing. This is what a lot of BMW owners experience. Now, when they get that issue, the first thing they start doing is Googling, because a lot of BMW owners go into panic as to why their car ain't starting, bearing in mind it's their only vehicle. They don't have time to be without a car, so they're trying to get it sorted as quickly as possible. So what do they start doing? Going online, go to Google, finding YouTube videos, trying to solve their issue, only to come to no conclusion. Then they start seeing other videos of people that a lot of people don't know what they're talking about. And then they start removing this module, that module, pulling this apart, pulling the cast lock out, destroying the cast lock, thinking it's the starter lock that's stopping the car starting. So many different things that people start doing, and they've got no clue what they're actually doing because they've just seen it on a video of someone else doing it. It doesn't mean what problem they had is the same problem you had. The most common culprit for this is a very simple thing that is very overlooked, and I'm going to be showing you how to address that and what this part is that's very overlooked, especially on BMWs. And this applies for all the engines, because all the engines have this and all BMWs have this. BMW put this in place because the CAS is the one that sends the signal along with the DME for the car to start. And I'm going to be showing you what causes that issue. So here we are under the bonnet of my BMW 6 Series. And if you can see, this has got the M52 engine, but it doesn't matter whether you've got the M53, the N54, the N55, the B58, BMW have kept this system throughout. This system is designed for the CAS to interact with the electronics on the engine side. And if this part fails, this will cause your no crank and no start. And people do overlook this a lot, a hell of a lot. I get a lot of comments on my videos asking why my car ain't starting. You've checked everything, you've replaced this, you replaced that, and to no avail, your car isn't starting. And I'm going to be showing you what it is that actually fails. So you've got a no crank, no start. And then many people go ahead and replace this. Or they overlook this. They think, okay, my starter motor was working yesterday. Can't be my starter motor, so we'll eliminate that from the equation. Fine, we'll take the starter motor out of it because obviously it was working yesterday. Now all of a sudden it ain't raining. A lot of people then moan because of the rain, because of this, because of the heat. Something else has gone wrong. They think the DME's been fried. They think the CAS has stopped working. Simply not the case. It still is your starter motor. And I'll tell you why. See this right here? Many people overlook this. Now, many of you would have seen, when I remove the manifold, there's a wiring harness that goes to a junction box to this starter motor plug right here. Now this is your starter solenoid. This is responsible from the CAS. When you go to fire the car using the start stop button to turn over the car, this starter solenoid actuates the starter motor from the DME. If that solenoid goes bad, you are going to end with a no crank, no start. The starter motor won't even turn. Now, sometimes the wiring harness can become unplugged from the junction box. Sometimes the wiring can be chewed up by a rodent, a rabbit, or whatever decides to get down there in your engine bay. Sometimes even heat can cause them to break down. This is very overlooked, and the wiring plug is only a 2-pin plug. One part goes into the junction box and the other part goes into the starter motor. You can easily unplug the loom, and that's why BMW made it like that, because obviously if it is a common problem, it's very easy to replace. You don't have to replace the whole junction box, you only have to replace that loom. But if this solenoid doesn't get the correct signal from the CAS, your car will not start. Your ignition lights will come on, everything will come on, but you will not hear your starter motor turn over. And many people overlook this completely. And it's really besides me as to why that ends up happening, but obviously there's not that many people that actually know too well about these cars. Many people will just bin the starter motor, think the starter motor's a problem, put a new starter motor in, and the car don't still start. And I've seen that many times. I get a lot of you on this channel who come saying the same thing, where you've replaced the starter and it's still the same problem, then asking me, can it be this, can it be that? And you start overhauling everything, only to find it's usually the wiring harness for the starter solenoid. This is common on the diesels as well. This is a common thing on the N47. They have the same things, the N57 have the same. A lot of them use the starter solenoid. When that goes wrong, that will stop the car starting, and these do go bad. Don't think they don't, they do. And if they go bad before the starter motor, then your car ain't gonna start. Usually when a starter motor fails, you'll just hear it clicking. But if you get no clicking, none of the starter motor turning, it's gonna be the starter solenoid itself. Do make sure to check that. It's very overlooked, and even mechanics ain't too sure about it. But this part is responsible. This picks up the signal from the CAS and from the DME. If it gets no signal, the car's not gonna turn over, you're not gonna get no power, your car's not gonna start, and that's gonna be the issue. So guys, to know how your starter solenoid has actually failed, these are the codes that you will have either on a scan tool or on your system. If the starter solenoid has failed, you will have an A0B4, which means engine starter operation, which is usually the starter solenoid has gone south, which means it needs to be replaced. Another one you'll get will be A0BE, terminal 15 output 1, which means obviously ignition voltage, which is terminal 15, where it's not getting any power to the solenoid on the ignition, which is detecting no current power to the starter solenoid. You also have a A0BF, terminal 15 output 2, which output 2 means there's no response between the starter motor, the CAS, and the DME. That's 2 outputs. There's no communication between the two, which one of them is shorted and out, which will either be the starter, it could be your DME sometimes. As many of you guys know, these cars like to get water in their DME. Could be one or the other. I would check both, but usually it's going to be the starter motor. That's the culprit for that. And then the next one is terminal 15, which is A0C0, terminal 15 output 3, which makes all 3 of them, which will be DME, starter, and CAS. So when it's all 3 of them, it's going to explain one or the 2. So it could either be the CAS, which is not giving a signal to the starter solenoid, which the starter motor could be fine. It could also be a DME, which is not picking up that one to bring the others awake. So that's where a lot of fault finding will come in. They're all terminal 15, because as many of you guys know, all these modules wake up as soon as ignition's on. Terminal 30 is obviously when your engine is obviously running. Terminal 15 is when everything wakes up the moment you put the key in and the ignition comes on. That's when everything's meant to come alive. And that is where the power should all be sent ready for the car to start. It's ready to start the car up. Most of the time it will, but I know there's a lot of you guys that end up running into problems. The CAS, the DME, the starter are the main 3 culprits to look at. The CAS can have issues. I know the older ones did, especially CAS 2s. CAS 3s were a lot better. Sometimes their flash files and their EEPROMs can become corrupt, but they can be repaired. Also the DMEs, especially on the MSV70, can become water damaged and you have to do an ECU as well. And also sometimes the keys can lose signal, so it can be a load of things, but it's not hard to be able to diagnose. Provided you've got a scan tool, you get the correct code that will pinpoint you in the right direction, or you can use this video, like I've just told you what the code is, and you'll be able to find out what the problem is. There's only a few things it can be to stop the car starting: DME, CAS and starter, which it's not usually the starter, it's the starter solenoid. So if the starter solenoid's out, guess what? The car ain't starting at all. So there you go, guys. This is what I meant by every BMW owner needs to check this immediately, because I know there's many of you that have got your BMW sitting in garages, sitting in shops, where they cannot diagnose the problem. And I get comments regarding this situation all the time, that your car's got no crank, no start, and you're struggling to diagnose it. There's also many people that end up selling the BMWs like this in a state with no crank, no start, because they can't figure out either. Like I said, a lot of people are under the belief that because their starter motor worked yesterday, it's going to work today, and that's simply not the case. On these cars, these starter motors like to give up with no warning whatsoever. And when they do give up, what ends up happening is the bushes become stuck, which then the starter solenoid ends up picking it up because it can't activate the starter, which then you end up with a fault code anyway in DME. You will always end up with a fault code in the DME from when the starter gives up, and it will be a CAS fault code. It will either be a fault code for the road signal, speed deviation, it can also be for terminal 15. There is loads of different codes it will give, but the moment you've got a code for the CAS, it means your starter motor is either weak, it's on its way out, or it's completely gone. So do make sure to look for codes in your DME, purely because that will be a sign that your starter motor is on its way out and it's time it needs replacing. So thank you very much for watching, guys. It is BMW Dr. Dean here, and I hope this video is going to help many of you guys be able to diagnose your no crank, no start issues on your BMW. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.